So we are at Lakeside Plantation, just off of Toledo Blade, and we will be going live here shortly. So if you can please share this video. It's a lot of good information. City staff will get up. City staff will be talking, answering questions, doing a nice presentation. This is put on by Northport Forward, and the United Tour has been going on, gosh, several months. And, you know, the citizens of Northport want transparency. You can't get any more transparent than going neighborhood to neighborhood, answering questions and getting involved. If anybody is out there saying that they're not transparent, I would dare to challenge them to that, because months on end, they've been doing these tours and getting citizens involved, and, you know, the city staff and everyone else that's involved with everything going on. It's amazing. So I'm going to slide over here real quick. I'm gonna PR a little bit. Jake, what's happening on Saturday? What's happening on Saturday?
Shop local farmers market.
Yes. How many weeks now?
We're at week 5.
Yeah, we got fruits and vegetables.
It's 30.
Lola Blue.
Lola Blue, and it's getting bigger and better.
Yeah, it is. It's been amazing. Thank you. So we're gonna check this meeting out and film the whole thing. So hang in there. I'm gonna grab my seat.
Good evening, everyone. Good. I don't have to scream in my voice. Welcome to the Northport United Tour. My name is Carmine Miranda, and I'm with Northport Forward. I'd like to just say that Northport Forward is very happy to be a sponsor for these Northport United Tours. I'd like to introduce a couple of our board members and chairperson for Northport Forward. I'd like to introduce Walter Pawlowski, who's our chairman.
Woo, woo.
Welcome. Welcome. We're going to introduce Lance Pro, who is board member, who also helps us with our food materials. Ginger Miranda, she does social media. And also, Gene Osborne, who's our treasurer, is not feeling well tonight, but that's the other part of our board. Okay, so Northport Forward. Who are we? What do we do? We bring the community together to have face-to-face conversations. We feel that face-to-face conversations is probably the oldest form of communication, and probably the best because we are able to talk to one another. We're able to look at each other. We're able to use the social etiquette to do that. And usually when you're talking in person with people, there's a level of stability that we all strive for. By us all working together, there are a myriad of issues out there, and by talking to one another, we can work to find common ground. Common solutions, okay, to move the city forward and make our everyday lives better. Having a voice in our city government is our civic responsibility, as is being informed and being civil towards one another. At these meetings, which are a little different than, if you're at a commission meeting, you have 3 minutes to ask a question or to blurt out something, and then you go sit down. At these meetings, you have all the directors, you have police and fire chief, city manager, and some commissioners are here. You have your undivided attention. And if you ask a question, you're going to get an answer. And if they can't answer it, they'll get back to you. So that's the benefit and beauty of us having these meetings. One thing I wanted to point out, we may not always agree on everything, but I think we can all agree that we need to learn and understand each other's perspectives. I'd like to mention that Northport just celebrated its 65th anniversary as a city here in Sarasota County. This is a very important year for Northport. We are experiencing tremendous growth, as you all know. We have many needs to, one, maintain the current system, and also to plan ahead for growth. We are also in the throes of the hurricane season, and this November, we have 3 commission seats up for election. We have 2 incumbents that are running in District 1, District 2, and a new entity in new seat in District 3. So with that, getting informed and voicing your thoughts, your ideas, and your concerns is your civic responsibility. It is also important to hear from all of our residents. A lot of times at commission meetings, we may hear 150, we may, with surveys being sent out, we may get 2,000 people. But currently, as we learned last evening at our economic development meeting, it is currently about 94,000 residents living here in Northport. So it would be nice to hear from the people. If you agree with what's going on, the direction that the city is going in, voice your opinion, please. Let the city know what you feel. If you disagree with the direction, voice your opinion then too. That's what Northport Forward is about, is teaching you and informing you on things that are going on so that you may have a voice in your government. One thing I want to touch upon is the charter referendum that they've been talking about at the commission meetings. I don't know if you know this, but Northport is the only municipality in the state and of 411 municipalities that cannot borrow money without going before a referendum first and getting public approval. Okay? Think of it this way. What if you couldn't get a mortgage to buy your home? What would you do? Scrimp and save, put money aside. By the time you're ready to buy a home, that cost just double. You're always playing to catch up. And we have a large city. We have many, many needs, and we have a great city. And you all, if you purchased here, you made a major investment in coming to Northport. You want to protect your investment. It's as simple as that. So at that point, I would like to introduce our city manager, Jerome Fletcher, to take you through a presentation on the city, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jerome Fletcher. I'm city manager here in City of Northport. A few things before we get started. First of all, let me thank Northport for hosting and having us again. Like he said, we do benefit from a great relationship of making sure that we are trying to get information out to you. Once we get the information out to you, we want you to make your own choices, but we are clear that we want to make sure that you make it with the right information, and I think that's only fair to ask. Let me introduce a few people that we have in the room. We have Mayor Alice White. Vice Mayor Phil Folks is home under the weather, so he could not make it. We have Commissioner David McDowell. We have Commissioner Warren Langton. And Commissioner Henry Peter is still home recovering as well. I would also like to recognize Mr. Andrew Silas, candidate for District 3. Mark Franson, who is a great community advocate. Good to see you, sir. I haven't seen you in a while.
Nice to see you.
And also in the room, which I normally thank them at the end of the meeting, but I'm at the beginning. The team that you see here, Fire Chief, Police Chief, Director, development services, parks and recs, HR is here, our assistant, our deputy city manager, the finance team, hope I'm not missing, the communications team is here as well. We have been in meetings all week long, and they are still right here, right now. And I'm so grateful for you all. Thank you. And they're going to answer a lot of the questions that you're going to have because they are our subject matter experts. They are passionate about what they do and they know what they're talking about. So I look forward to that engagement as well. But thank you all for being here. As we look at the PowerPoint presentation, one thing I do want to clarify is if you have questions for us, the staff, what we're here for in this public forum. If you have a question for a commissioner, will you please grab them after the meeting? We do not want to have any sort of violation of you asking them something that they may vote on. And that way you can get an answer from that particular commissioner for your question, if it's a policy related question. The format of our government, I know we are a mix of people from various places. Our government is a city commission, city manager form of government. They set the policy and the vision for the government. They make the high level policy decisions. We are the operations. We go out and execute on what they want done. They say what they want. We go and do it, figure out how to do it. It's a very good separation, but it's put in place to make sure that you're covered on both sides so you don't have too much running the organization that you have as the city with the city of. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, ask the question, we will answer it the best we can. So this is a brand new presentation, by the way. So we have news and information that just happened as of yesterday that we want to share with you all. It's very important information, and I hope that you see how you can tie in and ensure that the reason why you are here is discussed. But here's a QR code. If you have your phone, you can pull it out and scan it. We're trying to figure out why people are here today. It's an anonymous poll, and what you'll see is as we go through the poll, see the information, you get a different feeling of why people want to talk to officials in city leadership roles, and they vary. And there's a lot of different topics of what we're going to talk about, whether it's budget, whether it's rezoning, whether it's taxes, whether it's parks and recs, Ormond Springs. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of things going on in the city, and we're glad that you are engaged enough to be with us here tonight. Your leadership team, myself, Jerome Fletcher, our deputy city manager, Mr. Jason Yarbrough, and our assistant city manager, Ms. Julie Belia. We have a combined 98 years of public administration experience. There's not too many areas around here who can say that. We thank Julie for pulling 44 of those years. She is phenomenal, and normally as soon as we try to figure out why or what someone did at that point in time, she points us in the right direction. But we all have our individual strengths and weaknesses, but we complement each other very well as a leadership team. So how can I help you? You may have seen this, or you may not have seen this. This is one of our pitches for this year. We want to make sure that when you see these T-shirts on our people and you see this out in the community, we want you to know that we're truly trying to figure out what is your question and how can we help you. Unfortunately, the answer is not always going to be yes when we speak to you. And I tell people, if our relationship is built on me telling you yes all the time, it's not going to go very far. Because I'm going to tell you what I can do, and I'm going to tell you what I can't do, and why I can't do it, and try to figure out a little way to get something done. But I'm never going to tell you yes just for the sake of either getting you to stop complaining about what it is you're trying to get fixed, or for me to not give you the attention that you deserve. That's not what good government looks like, and you shouldn't expect that from this leadership team or any leadership team. So that takes us back to the code. So here you'll see a graph that shows the growth of the city of Gulfport. The growth of our city has been talked about for quite some time, and contrary to popular opinion, the city was growing before I got here. I did not just get here and say, let's grow the city. The leadership of the city said, this is what we want to do and where we want to go, and I hope I have tried to execute on their different decisions. But you can see from 1959, and we just celebrated our 65th anniversary, look how the city is populating itself. And look at all the activity on the west side of our city. Our city is 104 square miles. It is really big, and we're still growing. If we're at 94,000 people, we're headed towards 250 in decades to come. We have to be prepared for that. You need a government that is going to be prepared for that. You should want your government to be transparent and communicate and be accountable. And as we get here, then we'll make sure that we have the best roads in place, the best businesses in place, the best government in place to make sure that we take this journey together. But we have a way to go. And as you can see, the east side of our city is going to be developed. It is happening as we speak. Making sure that things are over on Legacy Northport side. We don't want everything new to be on the west side of town. I remember someone said that. That's not what a balanced city looks like. You know, whether there's parks on this side of town, whether there's restaurants, whether there's places to live, places to eat, activities to do, we have to worry about 104 square miles of the city, not just one particular portion of it. So when we talk about our future and how we got here, it was mentioned earlier that we have no borrowing authority, and you kind of figure out, well, what does that mean to me and how should we talk about it? Well, just yesterday, the commission had one of their discussions that sort of clarified where we were going, but as a municipality, one of the only 411 within this state, we are the only one that we know of, and our financial advisors know of, and the Florida League of Cities has said that they can find that doesn't have the ability to borrow anything without going out to a voter referendum. Now, the way this city was created with GDC and being pre-platted, all of that had to go into the formula. And yes, I know there was some FBI dealings that got involved with GDC back in the day. Glad none of us were here. It happened. So you can't say that there was not a reason to do it. There was a reason to do it, but the city should have evolved once it grew up and grew bigger so that you could have a borrowing authority. The borrowing authority is important because now at the age of 65, the city of Northport is just now having some infrastructure challenges that need to be replaced, as you can imagine. It happens to age. The pay-as-you-go model that we had is just not something that was sustainable. If you had to collect every single dime and dollar for what you needed in your life, you would have a very hard time doing that. What the city is saying is we don't have money in our funds to match hundreds of millions of dollars in order to pay for it. It's not realistic. But knowing that, we need to be able to make sure that we change that. And the pay-as-you-go model, due to the expense of rising costs, and I know we are 3 years outside of COVID-ish, but construction costs and time and everything else are still being affected as if we were still in the pandemic. That's not a good thing for your government, who does not have the ability to be agile and get what it needs done. And we're not looking to make sure that we have a blank check. One of the things that we talked about to the commission, and they have accelerated the request on, is a debt management policy. What are the guidelines and guardrails that you're going to put in place to make sure that you are borrowing responsibly? And that's fair. That's fair to ask. People who have done this before us and long time before we even thought about it, have been doing it extremely well. But we also recognize that in the climate of this day and age, it is not a great time to be telling your local government to be asking for more control. It's just not. There's too many examples of people doing things wrong. There's too many examples of lack of transparency. And what we're telling you is, please don't hold your fears and feelings about people who have done things wrong against the city that you live in, that we need to get things done. So the compromise is sort of what the commissioners came up with yesterday, which was to have caps in certain places and restrictions on certain categories: disaster recovery, public safety and health. The things that you would think, oh my gosh, people may perish if we don't do something right now. If we have another Hurricane Ian, this city would not be in the shape it was in prior to Hurricane Ian, in which we were able to get debris moved around, services restored, our fire and our police were able to respond and get out to people as much as they can. We still lost 6 lives during that particular incident, but it could have been a whole lot worse. So here's some of the essential capital projects over the next 15 years that I talk about that we're trying to make sure that we can take care of: roads and bridges, water control structures, public safety facilities, drinking water, wastewater. These are all things that are necessary. I like to use the example because I know that it is a polarized example of the aquatic center. No one's going to put an aquatic center in any of those categories. And some people who did like it or didn't like it think, well, this is their way of putting something in and getting it around us. There's no city that does not have a transparent process that goes through the commission, through public meetings before anything is borrowed or decided upon. It will not be done in the heat of the moment or the heat of the night and you just don't know about it. People don't borrow, they don't borrow that way, they don't borrow that frequently. And if you think about how you use your own credit, when you borrow, they have to make sure, one, that you can pay it back. That's the very first thing. They're not gonna allow you to borrow more than you can handle. And as a city, you have to have the revenue streams coming in to ensure that as you borrow, you are able to pay that money back, and bond rating and all that is tied to that. So when it comes to the referendum, our motto is get the work done. Because at the end of the day, I can sit up here and tell you 1,000 problems that we have. You shouldn't care about those 1,000 problems. What you care about is, well, how are you going to get the work done? Tell me how you're going to fix it. People admire problems all too often. We're not going to do that. We have tackled a lot of legacy issues, and Lena Ray, who looking at right there, had a lot on her plate alone. Whether it's the UODC rewrite, we're talking about Warren Middle Springs, we're talking about the borrowing authority. We're talking about things that people should have done before this point in time in 2024. But why wasn't it done before now? It doesn't matter. Who cares? Go fix it. Your job is to go fix it, not to look at the past and then point fingers and blame. The people who were in my role, their role, and the commissioner roles before them all did the best they could at the time they did it with the information they had. Move on. All right, so I'm moving on. So when you think about your borrowing like a personal mortgage, like I said earlier, it's based on your credit rating. It's spread out over future years. Future residents get to help pay for what we need. That's the big selling point. You all don't and should not have to bear the burden of what the city needs forever and ever and ever. Let everyone chip into it to pay for it. That's the beauty of the system. When I talk about requiring city commission approval and public process, debt management policy and stuff right there, there is no borrowing that your commissioners, who you elect, because you put your faith in them to manage the people who are putting the borrowing in place. There is no process to subvert them. There is no way to get around them. We would present to them the best possible scenario of what we're trying to borrow for, what it would look like to repay it, and move on from there. The debt management policy is being crafted, as I said, but when you look around us, everyone has either a debt management policy or debt management rules. You have to have rules in place, guidelines in place so that you can do this responsibly. Someone might say, well, oh, he's just trying to get a police headquarters and squeeze it in there, and now we don't have to vote on it. A police headquarters is a large-scale infrastructure project. It has to be, more than likely, most of it paid from general obligation bonds. That has to be approved by the citizens. There's no way around it. This is the process is, if you've heard that we do need a new police headquarters, and we do, was very eye-opening. But at the very end of the process, we recognized we have to put the right things in the right sequence. We need borrowing authority of some nature before we get to the huge borrowing need of a headquarters. And we tried to piece together the need of the police headquarters, and it should not all be general obligation bonds. Where are your grants? We have a strong level of support from the state, for the city of Gulfport. Our representatives, whether it's Gruner, Buchanan, Stubbe, they all support us in great ways. And we're looking forward to them helping us out with the police headquarters. Because I know we can have a debate on what's the most important pillar and strategic need of the city. If none of you feel safe, I can guarantee you, I don't care what your house looks like, I don't care what your neighborhood you're in, if people don't feel safe, they're not going to want to be here. The businesses will suffer. The people will suffer. We have to make sure, right now, we have a very highly rated police department and a police chief who just got recognized for a national award. Congratulations, Chief, by the way. If we want to keep that, we've got to keep up with that. That means that as our population of our city grows, our staff has to grow responsibly. The needs in the city are growing right now. We have to maintain and stay up with those. This is how you keep Northport with a high quality of life with a higher number of people. That's our goal, to make sure that you have that. I won't go into the millage rate and the budget right now because now is not the time, but that's tied to the growth piece as well. And if you follow along during our budget conversations, keeping up with the revenue has been a challenge. If you cut your expenses more than what we submitted, when we cut our budget to submit it to the budget, submit to the commission this week, you're now cutting into the bone of your services, your quality of services. And I'm pretty sure there's people in here who can make a comment or two about the current quality of services. We want to strive for excellence, so we can't cut services much more. And it's a challenge. So this is informational purposes. So again, when it comes to what you're going to see in November, your city staff can only educate you to the facts. That's all we can speak to. Now, we were brought in today by Newport Ford, our friends, and we can answer some questions a little bit more freely today than we could if it was just the city operating. But the city can only give you the facts of what's going on. So here are some of the facts about what's happening right now. The ballot language is currently being drafted by the city attorney and bond counsel. From a meeting that we just had this week, they're going back and revising based on feedback and direction from our commission, so that when you see a ballot question in November, you're going to be able to make a choice and a decision. Asking voters to amend the charge to allow them to issue debt without prior board approval. And like I said earlier, the buckets are natural disaster or emergency, or for public health or safety purposes, and public safety and health purposes. Public safety and health are capped at $15 million. So we don't want you to also think that the borrowing does not have any limits on it. But when you see the debt management policy that is going to be created in the upcoming months, we hope that it gives you the level of comfort that you need in order to understand that your government is unique right now, and it's not in a very good way. And we understand that you don't want to give up control as people. No one truly does. But the city has to get taken care of. We have a professional responsibility to take care of the city. It will get taken care of one way or another. This is the less painful way. Trust me when I say that. You want to be included. You want to all be in front of you, in front of this commission to make those decisions. The state of Florida has an obligation to take care of the city of Newport as well. We don't want to go to the state to ask them for help. We can do this ourselves, especially based on the baby steps that we're asking to get there. We're not asking you to go, well, let me rephrase that. I was asking you to go to give us the same authority that the other cities around us have. I feel like that's what we deserve. We've been a small sleepy town for a long time, and now we're near 100,000 people. Why can't we treat and behave and act like the other cities who do this very well around us? I no longer believe that to be the most successful route. I do believe we need to just, let's take it slower, put these certain categories in place with some caps on them, create a debt management policy, see how we do with that, earn some of your trust, and then we'll come back to you when we have a challenge that we can't figure out with the authority that you give us to have. That's the plan of the process for that. Rezoning, you already see that's the Unified Land Development Code. The existing one is from 2010. This is a code that is within 14 years. And let me just say, if some of you, I know I've been here over the last 14 years, think about the changes that you've seen in this city. Think about what's happened in this city. You should want your regulations to match with the growth of the city so you can maximize the businesses and the other revenue, not from taxpayers' dollars, that can help build up this city. You should want that, but you should also want it to be done in a responsible way. We have credentialed people in our department who have been working on this now for more than, a year or so. But when it's done, and as it's being done, you will have a city that will have a code that will match the intention of going from the 8% of commercial that we're at now to at least 18 or 25% where we need to be. We need businesses here in the city. We need jobs in the city. We need people to not commute outside of the city to go to work. All that's important, and that's why we're writing the ULC to make sure this city is in the best place to be successful based on where we're going with our trajectory. This group right here is a fine group that was established this year, and they are called the Natural Resource Division. So when you hear me talk about growth and you hear me say that we need businesses, it needs to be balanced with our environment, with our wildlife. We do not want to be the administration that's known for, look at all the growth that they did, but they didn't care about the trees, they didn't care about the land, they didn't care about the wildlife. That's not who we are. And I'm very glad and grateful that the commission signed off and gave us this particular team. They're all certified. They all know about whether it's the arborist, our urban forester, or our division manager. They all have credentials that say and prove that they have spent a lifetime of education and experience of being able to protect the environment of our city. We're 104 square miles. There's room for everything here. Maybe an ATV park, but just about everything. We have a lot of space. And you have a lot of people who are committed to making sure that we balance that space with what we think that we need, with what you think you want. The healthcare that's coming here to our particular city is just ridiculous. When I got here, I was told, we need a hospital, we need a hospital, we need a hospital. And, now here we are with 3 being built. And look at that, even the behavioral one as well. So the Sarasota Memorial, we know 2 of those are coming. You've probably heard by now, one on 75 and Sumter, and one also in Woodland Park. HCA, our partners over in Woodland Park, have already broken ground. They're moving dirt. If you drive by there, anytime you can look and see everything that's happening over there. That progress is amazing. The Acadia Healthcare Behavioral Hospital, that's one that I think everyone is going to really appreciate. We live in a day and time where I'm not sure how you feel about mental health or illness, but we should all acknowledge that it is a real thing. And we need to make sure that people have the care that they need when they need it. No one should have to drive to Venice or Sarasota to get what they need. We have a huge population of people who need services right now. And the workforce training partnerships, we're working with Suncoast Technical College right across the street. They're looking to expand their facility to their next phase. We want them to expand their facility so that they can capture more healthcare students and programs. And as they capture those programs and those students, we want them to stay here and work at those hospitals. They don't even have to leave. That keeps your money here. That improves the revenue that your city has. The more that we can rely on others for revenue and not on you, the better the city will be. And I know what you're thinking. There's more traffic, there's more people, they can't drive. I almost die in a roundabout every single day now. And it's like a 15-mile-per-hour roundabout. And I know you saw the car in the pool. That was our roundabout. Long story, but anyway. Our driving behavior is something that the chief knows I've talked to him about since I've been here. But when you have this collection of people who come from all parts of the country to be in a glorious city, whether they're snowbirds or not, or whether they're just visiting, everybody wants to be here. They bring their own styles and tendencies. We can do better and we'll do better, making sure those styles and tendencies match the law so we can all feel safe when we drive. But the driving here is bad, and the 75 is bad too. I know that's not ours, but 75, people think it's like the Autobahn. We really gotta make sure that people understand. Just slow down. Whatever you're getting to is going to be there when you get there.
Yep.
But either way, we'll try to change that behavior as well. This is Warrenville Springs. For some of you who may not have been there, it is a topic that we've been working on now for maybe 2 years this fall, and we've tried a lot of different ways to discuss this particular project. What I can tell you is that the commitment of this particular commission, when someone says, well, you haven't done anything to it yet, we've done more in the last year and a half than anyone did to in the first 14 years that you've had since you got out of the county. Not one person knocked on my door about Woman Springs the first year I was here and said anything about the condition it was in prior to Hurricane Ian. When I saw it, I was like, this, and it didn't change that much after Hurricane Ian either, by the way. If you go back and see it, it looked a lot like that before, except our Parks and Rec director, they've done a lot of work to sort of get it, get some new energy out there since it reopened. I wonder if that might have been last April, if I remember correctly. But the point is, it's a treasure for the city. So you have to protect it. That's the first and number one thing. You can't build or do anything around it that's going to destroy the water. And we had a geotechnical survey test that was done that stated that it was less likely that anything done in a particular parameter of the water would hurt it as well, which is good. But we still have to do what? We still have to fix up Warm Middle Springs. We need to figure out what we're going to do with Cyclorama, which is one of the most historical buildings in the country. And there's two other buildings out there. There's a total of 3 current buildings. We are still gathering information, and we have a lot of different external partners lately, and bringing those pieces of information back to the commission so they can make a decision sooner rather than later. But we want to keep the history of it. We want a new admissions building. We want showers out there so people can rinse off before they go in on. We got to have restrooms. We want to improve the customer experience. The city has other options for the 60 acres. They could sell it, they can build on it, they can make it a conservation easement, they can put the legacy trail through it so that people have a destination when they come down on their bike ride from northern Sarasota County. These are all things that are being contemplated by your leadership team as a commission. And we're giving them everything they ask for so that they can make the best decision when it's the right time to make that decision. So here's a community newsletter that we would love for you to join up and sign so that we can stay in touch with you. If you're not in touch with your government, information normally does not just fall in your lap. It's not gonna come in your mailbox. It's not, you have to want to know what your government is doing. But if you want to know, we don't make it hard to find us. Whether it's these kind of meetings, whether it's the public meetings that the commissioners have, whether there's office hours, whether there's phone, because we care about all the citizens. You know, the results and action you get from your city leadership is not determined by who you know. I don't care if you know the mayor. I don't care if you know the police chief. If you need something, we have a North Report app system that you can put in a problem. It takes your information, routes it to the right people, and then we can get working on the problem so that we can solve what you need solved. If we don't solve that problem in a reasonable amount of time, then you call the mayor, you call the police chief, and we can figure out where it is and why we haven't responded. But it escalates up. If you start up, it will take a slower time to get to us to where it needs to be. We are available in person, on the phone, online, email, you name it. We answer questions all the time. This right here is the local development QR code. If you want to know what's going on around you, you say, well, what's being developed here, there, and elsewhere, it links back to a page on our website, and it answers a lot of questions for people who don't truly know what's going on around me or what's being planned around me. It's very important because when it happens, I don't want you to look up and say, oh my God, they just started building this, you know, and it happened overnight. Nothing in the government happens overnight, except sleep. That is it. We just don't move at that pace. Well, why do you move so slow? We move so slow because we have rules and regulations in place because someone did something at some point in time. Hey, Ms. Bland, this is Ms. Bland from our IT department. Welcome. The rules and regulations are put there to protect you, to make sure that your government is doing the right things. And I hate to say it, but that's just the way that it is. we can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we want you to be faster, but be a little bit more loose with the rules. I'd rather you be very tight on the rules and get it right in the right amount of time. And that's what we do. There's no cutting corners here. There are no ethical violations that are being occurred in the name of any reason. It doesn't matter what the reason is. That's not who we are, and that's not what we do. So we will continue to provide you the best good governance that we can. The 65th anniversary of this city is definitely not our ending point, but it is a milestone, and we are grateful that we had the 65th anniversary last week. It was a very special moment, and I think there's a lot of pride in the city, and I think it showed on that day. But we are excited every day to serve you in the city of Northport. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, and we will turn it over to see how many questions we can answer. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just ask about the Price Boulevard project? I was just curious. We've looked at it for a few years now, and I've heard about it starting, it was supposed to start this year. I'm just curious where it's at and how it's projected to go forward, considering the traffic and all morning hassle getting to Sumter.
Yes, that's a great question. Where is our, hey, there she is. This is our Assistant Public Works Director, Ms. Trisha Wisner. She loves Price Boulevard.
I do love Price Boulevard.
Well, we appreciate that the community supported the referendum a couple of years ago so that we could get this very, very needed project underway. It is 100% designed. We did redesign the crossings following in to make sure that it was going to be very strong. It will have the 2 lanes both ways, a turn lane in the middle, and it will have a nice walking path on both sides. It is out for bid in a couple of weeks. We expect to start the project in fall.
It's open house.
There's an open house July 20th for this, especially for the community members that live alongside Price, so you can find out about mail and how things will go.
Is it Monster?
Yes,
It's in the George Mullen.
it is in the George Mullen Activity Center near City Hall, and all the information is online.
Yes, project, you want to answer your question there?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
What are we doing to address affordable housing? As we talk about more economic development and bringing more jobs here. Can't do that if there's no place to live that they can afford.
This is true. Is anything really affordable anymore?
Yeah.
We used to be the affordable cradle of the county, and now the prices here are, in my opinion, reaching levels that it's hard to be affordable. But to answer your question, our Development Services Director, Ms. Elena Ray, loves affordable housing.
So that is a great question. We are working with developers on affordable housing. We have one affordable housing project that is under construction right now. And it is at the, behind the Publix at Toledo Lake and Price, right down the street. That is specifically for over 55. So that's a segment of affordable housing that often gets forgotten or ignored. But we have a lot of seniors in our community that are in great need of affordable housing. We have another affordable housing development that is going in over on Pan American in our older section of Northport. It's a great area for it because we have a lot of services in that area. Social services is located over there so that they have easy access to that. There are bus routes that they can catch. That is a project that I believe, if I remember right, has about 244 units in it. And we are working with Salvation Army for them to develop a housing development for transitional housing. We are also in with our ULDC rewrite that Mr. Fletcher mentioned a few minutes ago. We are providing incentives for affordable housing development with our mixed use projects and with any sites that multifamily can develop on by right. So we're building in a lot of bonuses and incentives that we didn't have and don't have currently that are making it much easier for developers to provide affordable housing. And one of our real goals is so that when somebody builds a multifamily development, even if it's a luxury development, there may be affordable units in it. That nobody knows that those are affordable units. They're integrated in with the development so that there's not a stigma where people don't feel like they are separated and different from the rest of the community. That's a very successful model that has been used in other places that have had some really good affordable housing solutions. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We want to take the best from other places and use them here. So we want our people who need affordable housing, who are our teachers and our nurses and our firemen and a lot of healthcare workers. We want them to be part of our community, and we don't want them to feel like they're segregated and stigmatized. So integrating those into any development is one of our critical roles.
And the ULDC, right, is.
So the ULDC, which some of my staff and I have pretty much been working on around the clock for I think over a year. It is going to the Planning and Zoning Advisory Board for a recommendation to the City Commission on July 18th. It is going to first reading to the City Commission on July 23rd. And knock on wood, all goes well, August 6th will be second reading and final adoption. It's a long time coming. It's to the point our legal ads are due to the newspaper on Monday, so we're in panic mode right now, making sure we've got all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed. But it's something that's needed to be done for a long time. The city's been working on it for a long time, but it just kept getting delayed for one reason or another. And we are so excited to now be at this very critical time in our history.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, that's the legacy project. They spent countless hours getting it there, so thanks, ma'am. Ma'am, can I answer your question? Yes, ma'am?
Yes. I have some concerns. I moved here 5 years ago, and when I moved here, got off of 75, you drove down Toledo Blade, it was just beautiful. There's trees all over the place. You know, you drive around, everything's all green. Now everything's being torn out, down, no trees are being left, everything's being clear cut. There's developments all down the back there. I'm very concerned about the traffic. And of course, the wildlife is just being pushed out of this area. And that was one of the things that we enjoy, being able to see the wildlife around, and they're just being pushed away. You're talking about rezoning. So that, of course, I have concerns about that because I think what brought me here is being torn out.
Before you start, let me, because that was a lot, and thank you, ma'am, for your feedback. And you said 5 years ago, if I remember correctly.
We moved here in 2019.
Yeah. I'm fairly certain that would have been too late to stop the falls that were in motion, but even at that point, there should have been some knowledge either communicated or done differently that the growth of this city was on a track to develop some of the lands that you're mentioning in your particular conversation. Most of those lands are not owned by the city, and the property owners do have rights to do what they bought the property for. And I know you get that. Our goal and our reaction to that has been because we want responsible growth. And I know she's probably going to mention the Natural Resource Division as it relates to the wildlife that you just mentioned that is getting displaced. But I can guarantee you that your city leadership is committed to making sure that if the trees and the wildlife that you're used to are displaced for whatever reason, they're not removed entirely from your city. It just may not be where you saw it before. There's no way that the city is going to turn into a concrete jungle, but it will look differently. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it's going to continue to evolve. I'm sorry.
Can I comment on your thing on that? If I want to cut down a tree on my property, I have to get permission and not anymore?
I know.
Because,
You did. I remember that.
yeah, I remember that, and it's like these people are just cutting down trees, like completely clear cutting everything.
And when they clear cut, of course, they're either following our regulations or then they get Fine and other stuff.
Yeah. Well, so our current ordinances, and this is all part of the Unified Land Development Code, ULDC. Currently, if a developer wants to remove trees, they can. They have to pay mitigation fees. And I'll give you an example, one that was a lot of heartburn, not just for our citizens, but for even staff having to approve it, was the development at Price and Sumter, the apartments that are being built over there in the Heron Creek development. The developer wanted to clear cut everything. We really wanted them to save some trees. Unfortunately, our current codes give them the ability to clear cut, and we can't deny them that. They had to pay $250,000 into our tree fund in order to do that. The mitigation is based on the number of trees they take down and the size of those trees and the species of trees. So currently, developers are more than happy to whip out their checkbook, write us a great big check, and then clear cut because it's easier for them. Our Unified Land Development Code that's being rewritten right now is going to have provisions in it that they can't do that anymore. We're adopting what's called context-sensitive design, and that's a technical term that basically means you can't just look at your survey and say, here's my boundary, I'm going to clear everything in it, I don't care what's there now, and I'm going to build however much I want to. You have to first look at your site. What kind of trees do you have? What kind of wetlands do you have? What kind of species do you have? Do you have gopher tortoises? Do you have scrub jay habitat? What do you have? And you're going to build around that. Yes, trees will still come out. Things will still change, but they're going to have to preserve some trees. They're going to have to preserve habitat, and they're still going to pay to take out the things they're taking out. So it's a different way of designing sites. And our natural resources team will be looking at those projects and those plans from the very beginning. As soon as somebody submits a project to the city, they're looking at those plans. They're going to be going out to the site, visiting those sites, seeing what's there, and the developers are going to have to develop based on preserving some of that. There's going to be some minimum requirements that they have to preserve on site. And that's something that's completely new to Northport.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. You talk a lot about taking trees out. I didn't think you talked even about putting trees in. I'm under the impression that you're sitting on a lot of money in a tree fund. Tree fund. Putting any trees in?
We certainly are. In fact, when we met with the commission yesterday in our budget workshop, I mentioned a number of projects that we want to start working on immediately to put trees back in our ecosystem. And we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood, just over the next year, we would like to do about $1 million worth of planting. That's a lot of planting for 1 year for a new division. Our natural resources division is 6 months old. We've just gotten them staffed. We've gotten them up to speed on everything that's going on. But we really feel like it's important to hit the ground with some hard projects that our citizens can see, that are highly visible and impactful, so that you can see what is being done and how we're going to put things back into our environment. We're looking at creating a microforest. This would be on about a 1/4 acre of land, and it can be used as an educational opportunity, and residents can enjoy it, but it would be something that's on a city property somewhere that's visible. And it's if you haven't heard of microforests, I encourage you to Google them. They're very, very interesting. They provide a lot of habitat. We are doing a reforestation project over by the Jockey Club at the Canine Park, dog park, where we've got gopher tortoises on a property there right now, and it's been cleared, and Public Works has been mowing it for years and years and years and years. We're going to make that property a habitat again. We're going to put trees in, we're going to put understory in, we're going to put things in goats and tortoises like to eat and make it what it should be. Instead of just a mode, that's costing us money. That's costing you money every year for Public Works to mow it. We want to take properties like that around the city and put them back in a natural state. We are going to be planting a ton of trees, and we're going to take care of those trees. We don't want to plant them and then they die next year. We're going to water them, we're going to maintain them. Our arborists are trained to know what diseases are attacking trees, and they're going to make sure that those trees stay healthy. So we're going to be working on a bunch of projects like that over the next year, and our commission has been great at supporting this division and supporting those efforts, and they had a lot of great things to say yesterday about taking some of that tree fund money and immediately getting it into those projects. So we're very excited about it. Our natural resources team, I thought they were going to cry when I told them that they were going to be able to do this. So they're very excited, and we're looking forward to our residents being able to see those projects come to fruition.
Hand up over here, yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to find out in more in detail what is gonna happen with Toledo Blade. Because I think we are facing that we are going to live in industrial zone.
Now, you're talking about specifically to the lake near the highway or?
Just
all-
behind the highway, yes, going towards 75 and first and fourth.
But I think you're talking about the industrial, like Henderson and
You
what's
know,
going on
I
there?
steps in.
Right.
MIT across the
You can take my chair if you want to.
for residential area,
Um,
industries.
now, if you're talking about the area I just mentioned down towards the highway, that's a perfect area
Across
for
the-
industrial.
Yes, and going forward, I see a lot of development, all businesses building up. I'd like to know, am I trapped in industrial zone now?
If you're talking about the end of Toledo where it crosses 75, that is a perfect place for industrial, and it is going to grow industrial in that area. Now, you're not gonna have industrial in your neighborhood, if that's what you're saying, but
In my neighborhood, yeah, I already have it, MIT, it's industrial, it's a heavy machinery. And they sometimes testing those machines. It's a lot of fumes
I'm
and
not familiar with my TNs.
MIT, it's just a heavy machinery across the street.
Toledo Blade.
On Toledo Blade.
Across from here?
Yes,
Okay,
Oh, that's industrial.
That's industrial.
It is industrial.
So this entire corridor along Toledo Blade, north of Price, all the way to 75, was zoned for light industrial. There's two different types of industrial. There's light industrial and then there's heavy industrial. Light industrial is generally things that happen inside a building. You can have some outdoor storage, but it's mostly stuff that happens inside of the building. Heavy industrial is things like stone crushing and mining and things like that, that we don't do around here. But the industrial part of the zoning that's along Toledo Blade, that was done by the same developer at the same time that all of these neighborhoods in here were developed. They owned most of this land. And a lot of those plans, it was all planned together. They planned all the residential behind along these streets, and they planned the industrial along Toledo Blade. Toledo Blade was always, for many, many years, has been planned as a light industrial job creating center. So we can't undo what was done then. In Florida, in most states, you can't downzone property. You can't downzone a use. You know, we can't, if you're zoned for one thing, we can't tell you that now you can only build this. We can increase the number of uses, or we can, make it more intense, but we can't make it less intense. So that zoning was approved a long time ago, and it was intentionally done as a place to get jobs because it's on the interchange. Anytime you see an interchange, Toledo Blade and 75, Sumter and 75, you go anywhere up and down 75. Anytime you see those interchanges, that's where the heaviest development of any city or any county is going to be, along those nodes. So we do our best. We put protections in for mitigation and things like that. Now, if you are experiencing something where noise is occurring at night or, before 7 o'clock in the morning, or you're getting fumes of chemicals or anything like that, please call us. Let us know, because light industrial is supposed to keep those kinds of things, the fumes and that kind of stuff, inside your building. You shouldn't be experiencing that on the outside. And if you are, we want to hear about it so we can go address it.
And I think you might need to talk to us so we can see specifically what industry in your particular area is there or coming, so you will be aware. But when I think of, you said businesses on Toledo Blade, we have a lot of plans for businesses on Toledo Blade because we want to make sure that this side of the city, which is growing and thriving, is not left unattended. For instance, there's a YMCA coming over on King Plastics property down the road, and healthcare. Childcare is a huge need in the city. They're going to provide childcare for his people, and I think it'll be open to the public. There'll be programming for, I think, children and adults as far as the YMCA goes. So there's all kind of plans for this area of things that will grow. But if we need to talk to you further, we have to do so, ma'am. Oh, hold on one second.
I still have another question. It's about recreation, about the pickleball indoor, in-house, because we live in Florida, it's hot. People love this type of sport, pickleball, but we don't have courts
Oh, I thought you were saying
inside.
Indoor pickleball. Well, both of us, because there's a commercial and there's parks.
No, let's bring up our park and rec center conversation. Manny, come on down, yes.
I'm sorry, yeah. Seats, I think we share them. Here.
I'll save my topic to the end. You go.
Didn't quite hear the question. Are you looking for?
Indoor
pickleball.
Right.
So Parks and Recreation in future budget for surtax, which is over the next 15 years, has put in a request for a pickleball and tennis court complex. It's not in the next 5 years, but it's out in the 15-year future. We know that there's a need, so hopefully we will be able to make that happen.
And here's the other,
And
here's the other side of it is that we know of some people who are working to bring an indoor pickleball facility to Northport.
Yes.
So stay tuned. Hopefully, I'm sorry. Hopefully that news will be made public soon, but we know a group that is working to do that.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Is over here? No, you? Can I go here with you, ma'am? Yes, sir.
Share some more specific information about the time frame of improvements at Warm Mineral Springs, because you mentioned something about showers, about toilets, about something else. So things have been deteriorating. When will they start improving?
Yes, that is a very good question, sir. Before the subject matter expert answers, let me just say, the timing that the commission has been under now is due to the staff doing more due diligence on bringing them options that they can actually support, since our public-private partnership did not go the way that it was intended to go. So now, our focus, we have our own Warm Mineral Springs fund, and first step is improving it on what I would call a superficial level. But the next steps we're going to have to decide is how many of the 3 buildings we keep, the new admissions building, what will it look like, how much will it cost, the restrooms. But for the timing of that, I'll defer to our director to give more details.
Thank you. So we have been working on several options for Warm Mineral Springs. First, we were looking at potentially a new building where the 3 existing buildings would be demolished. The artifacts that are within those buildings would be taken out and incorporated into that new building. We brought that forward. Commission decided that we needed to spend some more time looking at the existing buildings, which are on the National Register of Historic Places. And possibly can we find a way to renovate those, but also harden them. They're in a flood zone now. And so mitigate them from any dangers of flooding. So we are in the process of gathering that information
So we can bring back to commission what the cost would be, not only to restore them historically, but also to harden them and take all the mitigation into account. So once we bring that back, commission will need to make a decision, do they want to go that route? And then how are we going to fund it? The project right now has approximately $8.6 million. When we went out to bid, I guess it was probably about 2 years ago now, to restore the buildings historically, the bid came in at $18 million. So that's where we're at. We'd love to restore them historically if we could. Don't know if we'll have the funding, but that's what we're looking into to see what the options are and what it would cost. Certainly don't want to throw all that money into restoring them historically if they're not going to hold up to the conditions here in Florida. And we just talked about, so the city manager talked about some of the things that we've done. The Parks and Recreation Department took over the operation of Warm Mineral Springs last year in April. Since then, we brought in temporary trailers so that we could keep the operation open. We've done a lot of improvements to the grounds, and we've done a lot of cleanup around the springs. So we've also talked to the Development Services Director about doing some tree plantings, because we've lost some very large trees at Warm Mineral Springs during the hurricane. And I know everybody that goes there likes to have their spot in the shade, spend their time there. So we're talking about doing some of those plantings there as well.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. And I know we haven't mentioned conservation easement, but that was one of the options that we brought to the commission as well in that process with the Gulf Coast Foundation. That would allow a conservation easement to occur on the land, the 60 acres, but you could also outline what you want the economic development footprint to look like at that same time as well. Because there is room for both, as long as you take care of the environment that's there and water that's there first. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, and it's for decades and decades, people have been talking all the fastest Florida's growing, and it's going to run out of fresh water. So who manages, with all these new developments and everything going on, is there an overall plan for making sure that our aqueducts stay full and you have good water?
That's a good question. Water. Yeah, it's future. I think it's I agree. I'm going to bring up Sue, our deputy director for our utilities department. She can enlighten us on the future of water.
Thank you. We do currently have a consultant working on water source study now. We do, at the current time, we do have enough water for developments that are approved and currently in the planning stages, and we do keep track of the water that we have and how much we have to give out. There is, in the Welland Park development, they have a plan to build out and construct additional water treatment plant expansion to the new plant to serve their future units. And then we're looking at throughout the city of how to increase the water supply at our water treatment plant that's on Northport Avenue, and also to look and see if we can put in salt wells and possibly a water treatment plant in this area of the city so that the water sources are spread out.
Answer your question. You ma'am, and then you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I know it's Florida, we have a lot of older people, but
Really?
is there, look around, right? Is there a plan, are there any plans to have a cemetery here in Florida? Maybe in Northport?
I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. I wish I were young. So we're gonna have to get back to you on that one. That's a good question. I've never heard anyone ask that. Okay, can you follow up with me afterwards? That's a very good question. Ma'am? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned briefly Warm Springs selling off the land.
No, the selling was an option. It's an option that none of the commissioners have jumped on or even said they wanted to do. But when you put your options on the table, you put all options on the table. But there's no appetite for anyone to sell Warm Springs.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yes, sir.
was interested in the water lady that was here.
Water lady.
Is anyone aware that Lakeside Plantation waters the lawns with drinking water? We don't
You
have.
say where in Surfside?
Pardon me?
You say we'll be aware
Are
of
you
it?
aware of that?
I wasn't aware of it.
Is anybody aware of that?
I am.
You are. We live here.
I'm not familiar with the irrigation system here, but I do know that at this time, we do not have reclaimed water available in this section of the city to use for irrigation.
So there's no plans for
Well,
fixing that.
the future, it depends what the future brings as far as if there is a wastewater facilities closer to this area that could become available, or it could become available in the future. But right now, our wastewater treatment facilities are very far away from here. It would be very costly to pump it all the way to this section.
Well, there
of the
is
city.
water going down the plantation. They have water there that's groundwater, you could smell it. We have to use our drinking water basically to water our homes.
Oh,
So different community development districts and different HOAs make a choice as to whether they want to use well water or they want to use potable water. And I, for instance, I can tell you, I live in another HOA community on this side of town, and our water is all well water for irrigation. That's a choice that the HOA made. If Lakeside Plantation wants to, they could go get the permits from the state to drill the wells for irrigation. And then you wouldn't have the cost of the fees for potable water. There's still a cost with well water because those pumps have to be maintained and the systems have to be maintained, but, and there's cost for permits, but that is a decision that each community has to make for itself. So it is possible for the community to decide that they want to convert to well water.
And just one follow on, Deputy City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to the growth and development of the area, we're talking about 75 Toledo played out. There are conversations happening right now about the capacity of that water, and either a new plant will have to be built or there's going to have to be some lines that are going to go quite some ways out. Both of them are going to be costly, but you want to pick the one that's in the best long-term interest of the area. So I believe that one will be built sooner rather than later to answer the question of here, you having it here for yourself. But great question. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. You, ma'am. You, ma'am. Did you, sir?
Why am I seeing so many lots in like our area being cleared off, houses being built, and nobody moving into them and they're not sold? We've had some that are over a year old. Our street, we've been there since 2016. We've doubled in size amount of houses, but only one sold. They're still tearing down the boards. So
I'm not sure if. Well, can I say something? I might be wrong.
Absolutely.
I think there's been enough instances in the city I've heard of where people have paid people and they didn't finish building their homes. And I feel like there's also examples of people who didn't pay to get it finished and someone went ahead and built it, now they can't sell it based on the home value sort of coming back down from that spike that we had. So I don't feel like it's intentional, but I feel like if you build it and you can't get anyone in it, then that's a different problem than someone taking someone's money and not being able to complete the home.
One of the things that we're seeing is we're currently in a little bit of a price adjustment with real estate. I can tell you on the permitting side, we're not really seeing a slowdown at this point. They're still wanting to build houses. And in Florida, under state law, if a builder wants to build on their lot and they're approved, their zoning says that they have the ability to build on that lot, we don't have the ability to say no. We have to issue, under state law, we have to issue that permit. So they are fully entitled, if they want to build. Now, some of those builders started their projects and got their funding to build those homes before the interest rates took off And they can't just stop because they lose their funding for other projects. It could be tied to other projects that aren't even in this area. They are also, some of them, instead of lowering their price, they're hanging on and waiting to see if the interest rates come down. Because that'll make the adjustment work out for them number-wise. But we're still issuing as many COs as we were. And I can tell you, most of the certificates of occupancy and permits that we issue for new homes are not in Dwelling Park. 70% of them are over here.
Yeah.
On this side. And we understand. So I think what we're seeing right now from the development side is that we've got a little bit of a an adjustment with prices. We've got interest rates. And right now, some of the builders aren't wanting to lower their prices until they see what interest rates are going to do. And so they're willing to sit on those homes for a while because they're just taking that as a loss until they can make the numbers work.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question kind of related to that. A friend wanted me to ask. If there's they want to know in an unincorporated neighborhood, if there's an empty lot, can condos be built?
So all of Northport, all of the city of Northport is incorporated. So there are no, are you talking about properties that are outside of an HOA?
Right.
Okay, so it's still incorporated, it's still part of the city. It's just not in an HOA. If somebody has a lot off of our streets right now that they're allowed to build a single family home, that yes, they can pull a permit, clear the trees off and build their home. So
Condo.
condos,
Yeah, like multi-family.
no, not if it's own single family, no.
Very weird.
Like a duplex on it?
If it's single family only, no. There are certain zoning districts. Northport really doesn't have much in the way of land available for duplexes. We're working to change that with our ULDC and open up some areas for that because we have a lot of requests for it. We have a lot of people who come in and say, look, I want to build a house in Northport, but I want to build a duplex because I want to be able to rent the other side of it and live in one side and help pay my mortgage. Right now, it's hard to find a place where you can do that, but we are opening up some areas where that would be a possibility. But if it's just zone single family, no, all you can build is a single family house.
Great answer. Any more questions for Director Ray? And I will just sit right back. She's great. Hampton, you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
First of all, City Manager Fletcher, thanks for coming out today. City staff for helping us with these questions. I actually have a two-part question for Parks and Recreation. It's been 640 days since we've last had basketball at the Morgan Center. I would love to hear an update. Are we anywhere near that? That's part one. Part two, east of Toledo Blade, we have that wonderful Atwater baseball facility with the splash pad. But I think that's the only park we have on this side of town. I'm wondering if there's any movement, any discussion of adding more parks to the east side. So, thank you.
Sandy.
For the Morgan Center, the contract for all the repairs for the Morgan Center is going in front of commission on July 9th, as long as nothing else happens to it along the way. But it is scheduled to be on that meeting, and once that's approved, then we can get that project started. I do not have a timeline. There's many repairs that need to take place at the Morgan Center. But in general, they're saying that it would take about 7 months. So we're getting there. But when you think about Northport and how big it is and all the different city properties that had damage after Hurricane Ian, we're working through that process like everybody else was for their home, but we're doing it for 28, 29 different park sites. So we have a lot of repairs that still need to be done, but that is one of the first ones that's coming up. Your other question.
East Side Parks.
East Side Park. So we have a presentation that our Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation is doing on July 1st.
That's Monday.
It's Monday, commission workshop, to talk about park system planning and kind of put it all out there. Where do we have parks right now? Where do we have parks that we, in the future, are planning to develop? And look at those areas where there is nothing current or planned. And then make a plan how we're gonna address that. So we do have some land out here. It's called Italy Avenue, that was planned to potentially have a community center, fields, dog park. It is in the CIP, it's just not funded to be done anytime in the next 5 years. We also have some land near there, Langless Park. We have another property called Boca Chica that we're working on right now for a neighborhood park. So there's things in process, but they're just out in the future. But I would recommend watching that meeting to see, it'll give you a good idea of what we have right now and what we're planning.
I think it's at 9 a.m. on Monday, July 1st. Yeah, so this recorded, if you can't watch it live, and there's also a link to the packet of information in there that you can find online, and you can see that presentation before you even get to Monday, if you want to look at it tonight if you want to. Okay, very timely question. Yes, ma'am.
I'll just back up a little bit on the parks. It's also a two-part question.
Okay.
One is more like a suggestion. There's a lot of new families moving to Northport with small kids, and almost every single park currently that we have has zero shade. I noticed by the city hall, there's a new park that the playground that they just redid, and they put a little tarp over a certain area.
Yes.
I think we're lacking shade. Most of us stay in the house all day with our kids because we just don't want to go outside and burn.
Okay, yes.
So it's more of a suggestion, but
Okay,
for
no.
future planning.
Really noted.
But one question I did have was the water sewage. I heard a rumor a while back, a few months ago, that the city is entertaining, obviously connecting us to some sort of city sewer system eventually, right out on septic. And I heard there's a significant cost that comes with that in the form of a lien on your home. That's obviously not a small cost for a homeowner to swallow. So I'm just curious, how is that being handled? Because those are thousands of dollars we're talking about as currently the economy and people's situation. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Especially if you sell the property to get out of that, you're still responsible for it, is my understanding. I'll confess I haven't done too much research into it, but that's just from what I hear from neighbors that have been here longer. So I'm just curious, what is happening with that? What's the time frame?
And as Sue, or Deputy City Manager, she's been involved in this for a long time as well. He looks like he's dying to say something. But the problem in getting people on to the water, I think when I first got here, staff and the commissioners recognized that they did not want this huge financial burden passed to the citizens. So I know that there have been conversations about coming up with plans to make sure it's spread out and to make sure that it is something financially feasible. So your financial concern has been addressed, but I think she might be able to answer some more of the details of the actual program.
The city has a report that was done several years ago that is long-range planning to provide water and sewer to areas of the city that are currently on well and septic. At this time, we're just completing design in the very first phase, which is South First Street. And it's a small area considering how much of the city does need water and sewer, but it's going to take many years to expand the water and sewer throughout the city. And what we will be doing planning processes, so if it is approaching your neighborhood, you would be told about it ahead of time. And as the city manager said, we're spreading out the costs so that it doesn't cost each homeowner as much money when the time comes. And long-range planning, of course, costs go up as time goes on, so it's hard to predict what the costs are going to be in the future. I don't know.
So, Jason Yarborough, Deputy City Manager. If you could get a loan for your house at 0%, would you take out that loan if you had to take it out? Who would want that? 0%. The state of Florida has hundreds of millions of dollars for water and sewer projects. But guess who cannot take advantage of that opportunity at 0% interest, because you have to go all debt, even if it's coming from the state or the feds, it has to be approved by the voters. Us, we are unique. We are very unique. And so one of the things we love to eventually take advantage of with the the charter coming up is the opportunity hopefully to take out and take advantage of these 0 to 2% loans from the state of Florida. And it's called State Revolving Loan Fund. It's backstopped by the federal government. Federal government gives money to state. The state loans it out to municipalities for projects such as this. But right now, we're on a 900-year schedule to roll out water and sewer into the areas. It's going to be a long, long time. You see Port Charlotte right now, Charlotte County doing that. And a lot of people wonder, well, if it ain't broke, why fix it? So we did a study to find out what was leaching out from the drain fields and into the canals and ultimately into Charlotte Harbor, which is an impaired water body. And one of the things we discovered is something that doesn't occur in nature. Man has to put it there. It's called sucralose, AKA Splenda. Splenda does not break down and it does not occur naturally in the environment. And we found it in our canal system. We didn't put it there. So it had to come from somewhere. It didn't come from Publix. It didn't come from Winn-Dixie when it was open. And it didn't come from Aldi. It came from the septic tank systems leaching out and going into the canals and ultimately into Charlotte Harbor, which our Charlotte County friends were not very happy with. So, but to answer your questions, please don't be alarmed. It's going to take a lot of money and it's going to take a lot of time to fix this problem. So that's that.
Stay there.
Yes.
Is there a rule in Northport that the septic should be emptied every so many years?
That is the Department of Health, which is a county and state function. We're not the enforcement agency for septic tanks. That's a higher level governmental body at the county and state.
Why?
Because that's where the power resides under state law is with the Department of Health. And that's just the way our state laws work.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yarborough. Unfortunately, we're going to stop there for any questions, but we will be around in the room and you can part if you want to grab us or any of our individual special experts. I want to turn it over now and thank you for having us as a city staff. When we bring back the report. Before you leave, folks, before you leave, I just wanted to thank the city manager. Folks, before you leave, I just wanted to take the time to thank the city manager and the staff for these types of presentations. I want to remind people that they're here after work hours. Just think about that for a minute. Also, the commissioners for coming, the ones that did come, thank you very much. To our board for putting these events on. We put these on a regular basis. Check our website, northportforward.com. You can see what events are coming up if you want to see more information. We had one yesterday on economic development, what's going on in bringing new businesses into the area. We had Charlotte County there and staff, and also Sarasota County staff, along with the city staff and economic development. Just as a reminder, we are a not-for-profit organization and we can use donations because putting on these type of events does cost money. Any help that we can get from the citizens would be really deeply appreciated. And with that, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, good Richard. This gentleman right here with an excellent haircut has been here working all evening. And his name is John Rawlings. He does the John Rawlings Show. We are working with him in order to bring you emergency broadcasting during disasters such as the hurricane in this upcoming season. We recognize, and he has been so gracious enough to offer himself and his services to make sure that we broadcast to you during real time, during hurricane from our emergency operating center while it's going on so that you can listen to the AM radio and make sure that you get information and know what's going on. As you can imagine, the technology and power fails, we're all in a position that we're not used to. This is how we improve communications to get to you directly by having him work directly with us, and we're grateful for what we're going to bring you.
97.5 FM WKDW, the community radio station for Northport.
Okay, one last thing, just want to remind everybody that Northport Forward is a non-political, not-for-profit agency. And we are always looking for people to help us on these type of events, or if you're really interested in helping the city move forward and would love to be on our board of directors, we would love to talk to you about it. You can go on our website, our email address is on there, and you can send us an email, or there's a phone number on there. It's an unmanned phone number, just to let you know, but you can leave a message and someone will call you back. So thank you very much for coming. Have a safe trip going home, and thank you for coming.
Good job, Carmine.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.